Yo, what's going on everyone? This is the Fall Guys Professor, aka A-Tag Swag. This is the third episode of Fall Guys University, and today we're going to be going over the map Freezy Peak. Freezy Peak is a Season 3 map. It times out at 2 minutes, but it's extremely rare to get a timeout on the map. Just like the other videos, I'll be covering a beginner section first with the simplest route on how to qualify. In the second half of the video, I'll be covering a speedrunner's version that goes over all the tips and tricks. At the end, I'll show you my speedrun along with a bonus clip. Let's jump right in, as this map can be very confusing when you first spawn. Here's my masterpiece diagram of the map. You start off by spawning in one of 8 lanes. Once you make it past the first set of obstacles, the map narrows down to 5 lanes. You'll then take one of 2 fans, they're circled in the diagram, to an upper section, which will then have a fan bridge that takes you to the stair step. After the stair steps, you must navigate a boxing glove puncher section that has flippers and snowballs shooting at you. This circles around uphill where you navigate a rotating wall and treadmill section. Lastly, you'll take the fan to the finish line. The spawn section is actually 4 lanes that mirror each other. Spawns on this map are random, so it's going to be beneficial to know the 4 different lanes and their variants. To make this easier, when I refer to lane 1, 2, 3, or 4, I'm talking about that lane and its mirror lane. The lanes go 1 and 8, those are the same. 2 and 7 are mirror lanes. 3 and 6 are a pair. 4 and 5 are a pair. Therefore, when I talk about lane 1, I'm also talking about lane 8. When I'm talking about lane 4, I'm also talking about lane 5. Lane 1 starts off with horizontal punchers, followed by flippers with a fan that moves across the lane that will blow you back towards spawn. If you continue straight to lane A, you'll see a treadmill that has snowballs shooting back towards spawn. After you pass the treadmill, the big fan that takes you upward is to your right. Go up the fan and you'll hit the first checkpoint. Lane 2 starts off with horizontal punches as well, followed by flippers and a fan that moves across the lane. After the fan, if you go left, you'll be in lane A. If you go right after the fan, you'll hit another fan section, lane B, that will have 3 flippers. These flippers can be staggered or in a straight line down the middle of the lane. The fans in this section will also be moving. Once you've passed these, you'll hit the fan straight ahead, which takes you to the first checkpoint. Lane 3 is a vertical puncher lane. There are 2 variants, checkboard punchers and double punchers. I wasn't able to get the double punchers, but they are not difficult to navigate. After that will be lane B, which we just talked about, but just to review, it's 2 fans with 3 flippers and no treadmill. After that, you'll go up the vertical fan and you'll hit the first checkpoint. Lane 4 is a horizontal puncher lane with flippers, followed by a fan that moves across the lane. If you go to lane C, it's the same as lane A and E, which is a treadmill snowball lane. You can either go right or left onto the fan that takes you to the first checkpoint. Something that is extremely important is when you go up these fans, do not, I repeat, do not hit a flipper here. If you hit a flipper before your feet touch the platform, you'll get sent back to spawn and you're almost guaranteed to not qualify. If you hit a flipper after your feet touch the ground, then you'll spawn close to the flipper you just hit. The next section is a bridge that will take you to the next checkpoint. Mostly this bridge is made up of 2 vertical fans that are spaced apart. However, some of the variants seen are a low gravity filled with a spinner in the middle instead of fans. A yeetus can be added, and there are also snowballs being shot from the next section. For the fans, you want to jump into the first fan as opposed to running straight off the platform into the fan. If you run straight off the platform, your momentum takes you all the way down to hitting the fan, which sends you higher than you want to be into the second fan. Running off the platform is slower, especially when you can possibly ragdoll, which is something you want to completely avoid in this section. If you have a well-timed jump, you can strictly hold forward here. If your jump is slightly off, you may need to turn your character the slightest bit. You'll then go through the second fan and you'll be on to the next section. You can grab this ledge if necessary or dive onto it. If you have the low gravity section with the spinner, you simply jump onto the spinner and then jump onto the elevated spiral section. When you are going around the spinner, jump when you are at 3 o'clock instead of 12 o'clock. Less experienced players make this mistake and they don't have the distance to make it. It's because you are jumping too late. You need to jump sooner than you think here. After the third checkpoint, you have this huge spiraling section that is made up of horizontal punchers, flippers, and snowballs. Typically, there are 7 punchers along the inside wall, followed by 8 flippers in the middle of the lane, with snowballs that shoot along the outside of the lane. There are 2 basic techniques, inside waiting on the punchers, or outside with the snowballs. The first is a little bit riskier but faster. It also requires you to run by punchers that are timed. Once a puncher goes off, it'll take 3 seconds to go off again. This doesn't mean you have 3 seconds to get past it, as a puncher extends fully, pauses, retracts, and shoots again. The time to run by each puncher, once it's retracting, is approximately 2 seconds. The other technique is the outside technique. It's much safer, but much slower. A well-timed dive can make up time, but you can also simply run up the outside and get hit by every snowball and usually qualify if you didn't make a major mistake earlier. There is nearly a 0% chance of getting flung off the map with this route. You must stay to the outside though. If you are often finding yourself not qualifying here because you keep getting knocked off, I'd recommend the outside route. One advanced trick here is the final flipper. You can run past the last puncher no matter when it goes off if you run right up against the inside of the final flipper. This is an emergency use only. If there are 3 or 4 spots left and you have a bean or two with you at the final 2 punchers, you might want to think about using this, as it could give you just enough of an upper hand to qualify. Just be careful here because your movement has to be exact. Once you're at the top of the spiral section, it's a soft checkpoint. You won't hear the checkpoint sound, nor will you see the checkpoint animation. But in the case you get knocked off the map, as long as you've gone far enough past the puncher, you'll respawn at the top of the spiral. This isn't always the case. It's changed a few times with updates, so you don't want to rely upon it. The last section is made up of rotating walls and treadmills moving in a circle. The yellow sections move clockwise and the blue sections move counterclockwise. Look at the floor. Once you pass the final white section on the floor, you can jump up on the treadmill if a rotating wall isn't blocking you. Jump up on the treadmill and run towards the fan at the top of the treadmills. If you run relatively straight through the treadmill section, the finish line will be to your right or to your 2 to 6 o'clock. Jump up the fan and either hold to the right or turn your character to the right in anticipation and then hold forward. An easy way to figure out where to go is the finish line is held up by these fans. There is also a very colorful blimp in the background. Use these as reference points until you've gotten the hang of where the finish line is. Once you've qualified on this map a handful of times, you'll start to figure out where the finish line is without using these as references. Land on the icy section and qualify to move on to the next round. If you liked the video or learned something, please thumbs up the video. Comment with what map you want to see next or a tip that helped you the most. Also, don't forget to subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Now let's jump into the advanced section. For speedrunners, you'll immediately want to identify your lane so you can take the most efficient path. Unfortunately, the spawns on this map are random and can put players at a disadvantage or advantage right off the start. So let's go over my masterpiece of a diagram. Lanes 1 and 8 are spawn reset lanes. What is a spawn reset, you may ask? It's when you run off the back of the map to reset your spawn to another lane. This is a risk-reward option, as you could spawn in the same lane. You'll usually spawn in a different lane, which is much faster than running lane 1 or 8 or physically running to another lane. But it could also spawn you in lane 1 or 8 again. I usually try a spawn reset once, and if I get spawned in the same lane, I just run the map. For lanes 2, 4, 5, and 7, you'll end up going to lane B or D. You want to avoid the treadmills at all costs. This will require a non-straightforward path, which is a jump up onto the snowy elevated areas. Be careful, as a fan in each lane can make it difficult to get up onto the snowy area. You may need to be patient until the fan moves and then proceed. Lane 3 and 6 are vertical punchers, which are fairly straightforward lanes. If, for some reason, you end up in a treadmill lane, you can always run through the first fan to go to lane B or D. Or you want to stay towards the inside wall and do a 1-2 jump. It is slightly faster to jump every second or 2 than it is to run up the full treadmill. In lane B and D, you'll come across 2 moving fans and 3 flippers that can be in a line or staggered. The staggered flippers can be a little more tricky, but you want to run on the side that has the 3rd flipper furthest away. When you get to the 3rd flipper, jump and navigate your character past the flippers by letting the fan push you sideways. If your timing is right, you can run to the side that has the 1st flipper closest to you, but the fan needs to be at its furthest point away so you can squeeze in the narrow space past the wall and the flipper, and by the time you make it to the 2nd flipper, the fan can't blow you into it. The flippers on this map are random. They will shoot you either forward, backward, or to the side. Therefore, it's not reliable to use these, but the last two flippers are close enough to the first checkpoint, where if you get flipped forward, it's much faster than running. When you land after the vertical fans, cut the corner and jump off of the platform to the fan bridge. Do not run off, we covered this in the basics. With a well-timed jump, you can hold your joystick forward and not have to slow your character down. This should make your feet hit the base of the second fan. Push jump and you'll go up much higher and further onto the spiral staircase. A dive is okay here if you are landing on the second step and not the first one. If you land on the first step and dive, you're going to lose time. Jump up the staircase and stay to the inside. Navigate the punchers and don't stop running forward. You'll weave in and out of the punchers and flipper section. If you have to wait on a puncher, you'll instead jump dive over a flipper. If you're close to other beams, you may need to wait, as a handful of things can cause you to get launched off. Don't forget that you can run by the last puncher no matter what position it's in. Get to the top and jump on the treadmills after the line on the ground. Run as straight as possible path up to the fan. Take the fan to the top and finish. I tried a number of tricks on the fan to improve my time, but you simply take the fan up and land on the ice and finish. Let's go over a few fun nifty tricks that may be possible depending on whether they get patched or updated. The first one is the one that has been patched, but I'm including it because it may be able to be done again. You were able to jump up in the corner after the second puncher on an invisible ledge, which allowed you to jump up on the punchers. This gave you a huge advantage because you're taking more of an inside route, so that's faster, and you also don't have to weave your way through. It's a straight shot. Another version of this was jumping up the slope in the correct spot and onto the punchers, which allowed the same thing. If you have a teammate, you may be able to double jump up onto these punchers, but I have not tried it yet. A relatively new trick is getting yeeted by a snowball up to the top area after the punchers. This method is similar to the flippers. It can be faster, however, if you do it incorrectly, take too long to get up to the correct spot, or a snowball takes a year to come out, it won't be faster. Now it's time to review the basics. Figure out which lane you are in. It starts with 8 spawn lanes that goes down into 5 lanes after that. Do not hit a flipper after going up the vertical fans to the first checkpoint. For the fan bridge, jump off the platform into the fans and hold forward. For the next part, you have 2 options: inside and waiting, or outside with 100% chance of not getting flipped off the map. Once you pass the punchers and flippers, look for the final blue section. Once you hit that blue section, you can jump on the treadmill. Lastly, use the fans and blimp as references for where the finish line is. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me out. I also would love to hear y'all's feedback. For the advanced review, lanes 1 and 8 are spawn reset lanes. Lanes 2, 4, 5, and 7 are all jump up lanes, jumping up to the snow above you. Lanes 3 and 6 are vertical puncher lanes, and those are straightforward. You should never go through lane A, C, or E. Those are the treadmill lanes. Cut the corner after the first checkpoint and hug the inside. You should be able to full send by running through the punchers and jump diving over the flippers. Also, try out the unique strats after updates to see if they are existent again. Enjoy my speedrun and funny clip at the end. My fastest time on Freezy Peak is 42:29, but that's not recorded. It is on my tracker. Comment with your fastest time. Is it faster than mine? Did this video help you beat my time or get a world record? I'd like to know. Oh no! Oh, okay. Well, you can do this again. Just like we drew it up, boys.